All right, today, real quick video. In the packet, page 5, that you kind of looked at the end of class, you're going to start that. Make sure that you have a lot of the information written down. The idea of what the P1 and P2 are going to be. Maybe a quick check on your conditions. They're all going to check out, so you guys can write those down tomorrow. But then the mechanics, you want to get that information for your confidence interval down. Figure out your standard error, figure out what your statistic is going to be, find your Z star. Have all that ready so that you can just go through and talk about that tomorrow. And then, you can get your confidence interval in the calculator tomorrow and come up with a conclusion. Then what we're going to do today in the notes is actually going to kind of follow that, going to go along with that a little bit, and you'll see how that works. The two proportion z-test is basically the big picture for the two proportions. A two proportion z-interval, which we're going to work on again tomorrow, actually will be more of a follow-up, or unless the problem says find the two proportion z-interval or confidence interval, it could be a follow-up to the z-test. Now, the z-test is a little tricky. It gets a little funky when you come up with two proportions. So we're actually going to push into using the calculator a little bit here. You guys have been very good with not using the calculator so much, using the calculator but not using the actual test feature on the calculator. But here we're actually going to go into it because the calculations get really kind of funky. And we're still going to draw kind of the pictures the same and stuff, but things are going to change a little bit. So in here you can see the standard error. Now there's a chance that we're going to pool something, which has to do with how the two groups that you're looking at come from. Sometimes if they come from the same basic population, so oftentimes we pool because of that. You want to know that as a multiple choice kind of question thing. This would also go into using the z-score because we are looking at a proportion, so we're going to kind of avoid that by using the calculator. So here's the general setup. On the bottom of page 6, there's a line there. This is where it says continue with class example number 1. So dealing with that same problem that was on page number 5 that you looked through the setup for, with the two groups of people and the smoking and trying to stop smoking. This is kind of the setup for if that was a testing problem, a hypothesis test problem. So you see your null and your alternative hypothesis. You fill in, would that be greater than, equal to, or less than 0? Also, the conditions would be checked already. We did that on the last page. That's something that we would do, obviously, if this was the beginning of the problem and the confidence interval was a follow-up. We would definitely check them. And they checked out, or will check out when we finish that part of the problem tomorrow. Since they checked, we can use a normal model to perform a two proportion z-test with, again, how many tails? 2 tail, 1 tail, depending on what you put for your alternative. To avoid issues, we're going to use the calculator. The left side is kind of the calculator work. Just write that down. We're going to go through that tomorrow together when we get to this point tomorrow. And then obviously you're going to have a p-value. That's going to come from our calculator. You'll notice I'm missing a diagram here. I'm going to show you how we'll add that diagram back in after using the calculator. It's going to look very similar to what we did before. And then we'll be able to say there's evidence to either reject or fail to reject our null hypothesis and so on. So really that's all for tonight. The other thing I'm putting on the video is the next slide is going to be a chapter 22 kind of card, and it gives you a general synopsis of what chapter 22 is all about. So I'll throw that up. You can write that down if you want to, or you'll always have it available through the link. If you ever need the link again, you can do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one video that I'm going to actually post that has all the cards on it later on. But you really should be copying these down now, because these cards and studying these will help you with your test, which is going to be at the end of the week. Here's that card, so pause if you want and copy it down. You'll see at the bottom of the card it talks about the issues with pooling. We're going to add that definition on later, but it does have the quick steps to the calculator. If you want to try it, check it out, stat. Go to test. You can choose number 6. You can also go and look at some of the things that we've already done. For instance, we've done a 1 proportion z-test and a 1 proportion z-interval. If you look at what's on the calculator, you can actually use that to come up with that information instead of using the normal CDF. You guys seem to be really comfortable with the normal CDF, so I was kind of avoiding the calculator as much as possible because you want to be able to put the work down and show that you know what's going on anyway. So that's kind of it for tonight. Go back in the packet to page 5, get that started, get some stuff down. I don't want to take too much time tomorrow going through that. Page 507, numbers 1 and 3 is your book work. Number 22 is already done. I checked that, and then we'll have some more practice tomorrow, some more problems to work on. We'll start doing review. At the end of the packet, The last few pages, pages 8 through 11, are going to be due the next couple of days. So numbers probably 8 and 9 will be due on Wednesday, and the rest will be due on Thursday. So you can get started on that if you have time tonight and you know you're busy the rest of the week. Have a great night. Make sure you get your stuff done. Adios.